Welcome to The Spotlight, the show that brings you voices of those who truly feed our nation, our small-scale farmers. Whether you're a farmer, a consumer, or just someone who cares about where your food comes from, this show is for you. This is The Spotlight, where small-scale farmers lead the discussion towards a just and resilient food system.
Uganda is blessed with fertile soils, abundant rainfall, and the hands of millions of smallholder farmers who feed the nation. But beneath this beauty, silent danger grows, threatening the lives of the very people who sustain us. Every day, thousands of Ugandan farmers use pesticides, many of which are classified as highly hazardous by the World Health Organization. These chemicals are often cheap, widely available, and deadly.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of The Spotlight. And today's episode we shall be looking at the use of pesticides in agriculture. And on my panel today I have two gentlemen. One is Mr. Wambale Bernard and the other is Mr. Wali Christopher. These are experts and they have had experience in the use of agrochemicals in the agriculture industry. And today I want us to dive deep into the use of these pesticides in agriculture. How are they affecting small-scale farmers? How are they affecting our environment? And what are the dangers or risks that we are looking at when it comes to pesticide use? Okay. I want to start with Mr. Wali. Please, you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Wali Christopher Magara. I'm a small-scale farmer of Mukono, and I'm an SAF member.
Thank you, Mr. Wali. Yes, Mr. Bernard, welcome.
Well, thank you so much for hosting us for this show. My name is Bernard Wambale. I serve with the Food Safety Coalition. I am the country coordinator. I also serve with Consent. Consent is a consumer protection organization. And I'm glad to be on this show, and I'm sure that we shall dive into this subject matter and make sure that our listeners are able to get the gist of the realities around pesticides.
Well, thank you so much, Bernard.
Right.
I want to start with Mr. Wali.
Yeah.
You being a small-scale farmer and on the ground, what kind of pesticides your fellow farmers or you yourself, if you use these pesticides, which kind of pesticides are you using in your garden or your neighbors are using back at home?
Thank you very much. In Mukono and the neighboring areas, the most used pesticide is the weed killers. Those are the herbicides. Those are the ones used to destroy weeds or to open up land, like paraquat. They use a lot of chemicals which are very deadly, like paraquat, like glyphosate, and others, 2,4-D. Those are very dangerous chemicals which don't break down easily. The other ones are insecticides, those which kill various insects, the caterpillars, it is ants, worms, etc. And also those are applied and they are very dangerous because they are applied from day one to until harvest. Because there are those insects which destroy the crop at planting. There are those insects which destroy crops at when they are growing up, and there are those which go with the what? With the fruit, like the tomato, like the American bollworm or something, a borrower. It goes with the fruit to the what? To the basket. So the other one are fungicides, those which kill diseases, especially mancozeb and other copper fungicides. Those are the ones used to control diseases like which are caused by fungal diseases. Those are also deadly because you have to apply most of them are contact. Every time they have to appear on the crop, like the tomato. On the onset of the fruits, you have to spray daily, depending on the weather, until the tomato goes to the plate. You can even find them in the market with the chemicals. Those are deadly. Yes. So the other ones are also which are very deadly are the rodenticides and those which have zinc phosphides, which are used in storage. In storage we have storage insects which like in maize, rice, beans, the bean brochets, etc. So some people use those terrible chemicals to control the zinc phosphides. They take out gas, which is terrible, and they are not easily washed from the what? And these are the problem. Most of our schools eat beans, and they eat beans which have been kept. So that's a very big challenge. I heard you say you're a consumer.
Yeah, sure.
Consumer protection.
Sure.
Do you go to these schools and see what they are eating?
It's a total mess.
And how they are kept? So these are very deadly. The rodenticides and those chemicals which control those storage pests. Yeah.
So, Mr. Wali,
Yes.
do the livestock farmers also use these
It is terrible.
pesticides?
It is terrible. There are caricides, I don't know. There are those which chase away flies, and they are made like the supponas, the what. These are made from very hard and hazardous what? Chemicals. Because that's why you see the tick has refused to die in Uganda.
Sure.
Because they have been using a wide range of very dangerous chemicals, and these small insects have become a problem to livestock.
Sure.
And when you go to chicken, I don't tell you, they want size. So when you want size in a very short time, you use extra what? Knowledge, technologies, and most of the technologies are not in feed.
True.
Whereas in other countries they improve the feed. Here we improve on drugs. Some are giving very terrible drugs to chicken so that they can get massacre.
You can now have
Yeah.
chicken in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So you want that chicken in 3 weeks, but you don't have the technology of changing the genetics or the feed, and you resort giving drugs to these what? Animals, and they become massacre.
Okay, so what challenges or risks are attached to the use of these pesticides among farmers? Are there any health complications among the
You
community?
see, the environment, what they call environment, starts with the human.
True.
Yes, it starts with that. The center person is the human in the environment. Trees, soil, what? So these affect the human being very much. Some go blind, some change their genetic module, they give babies which you see a lot of problems. I have been in a hospital where many children, it should have been for old people like me, but they now bring children to these hospitals. So it is the cancer institutes. So it is a problem which is generating from what they eat, because eating is a daily, it's like breathing. So when you spray chemicals in the air, they stay. So, and when it rains, the water comes into our tanks and we drink. It goes into the wells. It goes into the soil. The soils are dead now. The soil health is a big problem now. So you have to put in a lot of fertilizer, artificial fertilizer, so that you can get a good tomato. Whereas the soil organisms, the beneficial ones and those which make fixing of certain elements are dead.
True.
So what they do is to advise you to use a lot of what? Fertilizers. This is deadly. We need to go back and study this soil. Study the soil health. Bannange ettaka. Fenna kwe tuyimiridde. Era abasinga obungi ettaka lirisinza okututta. Kubanga eddagala lino bwe ligenda mu ttaka litta obuwuka bwonna obwandibadde buli lwofa, buli ekitooke bwe kigwa tulina abatusumulula. Those are the microorganisms. Kati buli baba nga tebaliwo, tebasumulula bulungi bigimusa bino kuddayo. Mu butonde ensi yakolebwa nga waliwo ateeka okusumulula muddeyo mu ttaka. Wano wonna we tuli waaliwo abantu bali luddawo. Naabo abasumulula gye bali naye kasita bafa ettaka eddagala lino libatta. Litta abo abali mu mpewo ba bacteria ba fungi ba virus abalungi ne litta n'abo abali mu ttaka. So kati kiki ekiddako? nti buli lw'olima bakuwaliza ogula ebigimusa bingi okusobola okufuna ennyaanya ennene. Ate this tomato is ennyaanya eno baba bagimaze okugikyusa obutonde bwayo obutofaali nti eteekwa kuba nnene kuba twagala binene, matooke manene, nanasi nnene. Kati
ekiseera ebisinga bakuwa seed ensigo nga tesobola kukula nga totaddeeko
tosobola nti genetically bagikyusa kati erina okuba nga edimandinga biri edimandinga mpa kino mpa kiri nsooke nkugajje kati ekiddamu ebintu ebyo olina okufuuyira. So it's a very big challenge we need to understand.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wali. Coming to you, Mr. Wambale.
Yes.
I want to hear from your perspective. What are the risks associated with the pesticide use in Uganda?
Well, thanks. And I think Mr. Wali highlighted most of those concerns. But what is interesting with this subject is that most of the pesticides that we are using in this country are classified as highly hazardous. Now just imagine if someone says something is hazardous.
Yeah, and
if someone just said, this is hazardous, already in your mind you know this is terrible.
It's very dangerous. Yeah.
Now someone even adds and says it is highly hazardous. Now that's where the issue is. Now you realize that almost, in Uganda, as of 2023, Uganda had registered, on the register, national register, we had 115 active ingredients of those pesticides. But those ones were also registered in 669 brands. Now when you go to our villages, what you see on the market, those brands, we have 669 registered brands of pesticides.
Like a field, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So those brands that you see, the paraquats and whatever,
The 240.
what is registered in this country as of July 2023, we're talking about 669. This is public information on the register of MAIF. But what is surprising with this information is that out of these active ingredients, the 115 active ingredients, about 47% of them are highly hazardous. When you come to the brands, we are talking about more than 68% of the brands on our market are classified as highly hazardous. Now that is the starting point. So if something is highly hazardous, why should it even be on the market? Now, what we call the globally harmonized system, this is the system, the global system we use to classify pesticides. So they have already come up with a criteria. Which chemical fits as a highly hazardous pesticide? Now, I want us now to understand from that perspective. Now, the criteria says that a highly hazardous pesticide, some of them are carcinogenic. Now, these are scientific terms. Now, I want to break them a little bit. Carcinogenic means that if you have exposure to this chemical, it can lead to cancer.
Yeah.
So it can be cancer of the brain, the cancer of the liver, the cancer of the kidney, and this is available information. And that is what we know, and it is scientific, and it is proven, and everyone knows it. That is one. So you would wonder why a country would have pesticides that are highly hazardous and carcinogenic when our health system is very weak. You get it? Secondly, other pesticides that we have in this country, I even have examples. If you've seen some chemical called carbendazim, now that one, it is mutagenic. Mutagenic means that you know what makes me, the way you look at me, what makes Bernard, yeah?
It's DNA.
Is the DNA or the genetic makeup. Now, some of those elements have the ability to change my DNA. You get it? They have the ability to change my genetic makeup.
So they cause mutation.
Exactly. So they mutate your DNA, and then your DNA can change. You get it? So just imagine changing my DNA without my consent. Which kind of mess is this? And the country allows such a chemical in the country. That is another issue that we have, mutagenicity. 3, we know that some of those highly hazardous pesticides are actually what we call reproductive toxicants. They can affect reproduction.
Yeah.
You've seen in Uganda how everyone who wants to make money, they use reproduction as the,
Yes.
You have to buy Molondo, you have to buy this, you have to buy that. Where is this thing coming from? The issue is that most of these highly hazardous pesticides that our people are actually commonly using are termed as reproductive toxicants. What that means is that if a lady, for instance, has exposure to such chemicals and they get pregnant, the risk is that you can get pregnant, but you get an abortion. You can get pregnant and you get a preterm birth, meaning that before the baby is supposed to be born,
a mommy.
the baby's, yes, exactly.
You get a mommy?
Yes. And then if you are pregnant, for instance, and then you have high exposure to those chemicals, what can happen also is some of those chemicals can damage the unborn child.
Yes.
So just imagine your baby you've struggled to have, and then the child is damaged inside there.
And
So at
crippled.
I mean, yes. And at the end of the day, you give birth, but at the time you give birth, the child is having a neurotoxicity,
yes.
has neuro challenges, the head is so big,
Yes.
the spinal cord is twisted, the heart is blue, the heart has a hole. All of those challenges are associated with these things. The other issue is that,
So before you go to the other issue,
yes,
is there a mechanism where mothers can actually know that maybe my baby is, okay, besides the scan,
yeah.
but maybe has there been sensitization on the use of these pesticides? That if you do this, use them while you're pregnant, you're going to face this and this.
It's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate that all our farmers, actually majority of our farmers do not even know what they are using. They even don't know which chemical they are using. For them, the mere fact that the chemical shop is next to their doorstep, they will wake up in the morning, they have seen their plant having some bit of insect, they just go and buy. And then they spray. They don't know what is likely to happen when they spray that. And even they don't know that I'm pregnant, and so this is the aftermath of spraying if I don't. And that's why you see most of our farmers, they will even spray without anything.
Any
on their
protective
head.
gear,
They don't have any
yes.
protection at all.
Yes.
And just a little bit before I come a little bit to that, there is another challenge that comes with highly hazardous pesticides. We have what we call the endocrine system. The endocrine system, your endocrine system, is that system of your body that helps you to generate hormones.
Yes.
Hormones are those chemical compounds in our bodies that regulate our systems. So for instance, if you're a woman, you know that every month you'll go for your menstrual periods. So there is a hormone controlling that. So that hormone is coming from the endocrine system. So most of the highly hazardous pesticides are endocrine disruptors. They disrupt that system. That is why research has shown that women who have high exposure to those highly hazardous pesticides, they can either miss their menstrual periods, or they can have prolonged menstrual periods, or they can have intermenstrual bleeding, meaning that in between your periods, there's high bleeding. All of these are consequences of highly hazardous pesticides. And so we see women suffering locally, but they don't know why they're actually suffering. And then lastly, we know that these highly hazardous pesticides have a challenge with bees. They are toxic to bees and other pollinators. Now imagine us living in Uganda without bees. Bees are our primary pollinators for most of our crops. And then you can imagine living without the bees. What is going to happen?
We have no food.
And then we start complaining that the production has gone down. But you don't have the pollinator. The pollinator has already collapsed. I can give you a case. You remember in the early days when we were still in primary school and whatever, you'd see bees moving from one place to another. And in primary school, they used to tell us a group of bees is called a swarm. And so on a particular Friday, you go and stand outside waiting for a swarm of bees. When did you last see a swarm of bees?
No, not even one now. There are flowers here, but I don't see any.
You can't see, exactly. So what is happening is that the overuse of highly hazardous pesticides, toxicity to bees, and the bees will relocate or die. So these are some of the concerns that come along with the highly hazardous pesticides.
Thank you so much, Bernard. How widespread is the contamination of, let me say, water sources, the food we eat with these pesticides?
Yeah. The contamination is too high that even we can fail to quantify.
Yes.
For instance, go to any of our markets, go to Kalere, go to all these markets you're seeing. You will vividly see mancozeb on top of a tomato. And if you don't have that chemical on top,
Someone will
They will
not buy.
not buy.
actually the seller assumes that the consumer will not buy. It's an assumption.
It's not
And
an assumption. Most
it
times.
It is.
It is because
and
we have grown now, we know that it has to stay longer. You get it?
Yes.
So we have mastered that if it is not having the chemical, That
And
will
it
take
is not
few days.
only on tomatoes.
Yes.
But even the consumer now,
Yeah.
when they go to the market, they want that tomato with the white substance.
And you
Yeah.
know why? People are not aware.
The
So
shelf
for
life.
instance, mancozeb, that chemical we are using, it was banned long time ago from the EU. They don't even see it. They don't even use it. Now for us, we are busy using it. And because we don't know, no one has told us about these things. And the other issue is that if you look at how our farmers are planting food, most of our farmers are actually cultivating food closer to water sources. You see most of the vegetables, the yams and whatever, they are planted next to water streams. And when this farmer is spraying, this chemical is not going to segregate that for me I'm supposed to be on this plant. No, 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 no. It will go on the plant and to the water. And there is a neighbor picking the water. By the way, a little bit to take you to the mancozeb in the market. Do you realize that actually before the consumer takes this tomato home, the person selling is the first beneficiary?
Yeah.
Because some of them are mixing from the market,
Yes.
and she's touching as she's giving the
Open
consumers.
hands.
And there is some kabalagala guy
Mm.
who is selling bread. So the woman is hungry, says, oh, so kabalagala. So they give the pancake, and she's already consuming even without washing the hands. Recently, we did a study on mancozeb to try to see what can consumers do. You've bought it, you've taken it home. So what are you supposed to do to reduce the chemical? So we got some 3 treatments. We peeled some of the tomatoes, and we measured how much you would reduce the chemical. So when we peeled, it just reduced by 6 to 8%.
So the
So
other
the
percentage
32%
had gone in.
very present. So meaning that even when you peel, you still have a 31% that you're going to consume.
Steadily.
Because it is one, it can be contact, but also it can be systemic.
Yeah.
Then 2,
I've seen some people soak the tomatoes in
Yes.
hot water.
yes,
Does that reduce
the risk.
Yes.
So the other treatment we did was to get the tomatoes and wash them with hot water to observe what is going to happen. So it also reduced, but only by 38%. So meaning that you have the highest percentage of over 60
inside the tomato?
inside the tomato. We also washed with cold water, just to say, okay, so what happens? Because that's what most of our people use.
Yeah.
Now that was terrible, just reduced by 30%. So you have a 70%. So in all those cases, you realize that we are actually consuming mancozeb live in our tomatoes. What about now the guy who consumes kachumbari? So what is going to happen? So those are some of the concerns. Water is highly contaminated. I shared with you previously that we collected water samples from 18 districts to try to understand whether these chemicals can actually be present in the water. So we picked water from taps, from lakes, from rivers, from shadoofs, from wells, from all those water sources you could ever imagine. And in all of those, when we collected samples around April, when the season was just starting,
Yes.
there was a minimum of 7 chemicals in each of those water sources. We repeated the same study in June, when the season is at the peak, and the chemicals had more than tripled. So we're finding about 20 to 21 chemicals in water sources. So just imagine between April and June, the water source has moved from 7 chemicals to 21 chemicals. So that is how bloody it is. And this water is being taken by all of us, in our homes, in our functions, etc. And this is what we are taking. By the way, that is excluding the pollution of the air. If you just measure the level of contamination in the air that we breathe, we must have arrested people a long time ago who are responsible for this contamination. Now the babies are taking in, the pregnant women are breathing, the men and women are taking in. And at the end of the day, we see our cancer institute becoming even smaller to accommodate people. People you see at the cancer institute, they are the ones who are known. There are many people in the homes down there who are not known. And one of the other challenges we cannot fail to talk about is the fact that people are talking about we want to produce big things
Yeah.
to hit the market. I want to assure you that when our tomatoes, onions, whatever, if we take them to the external market and they found higher levels of those pesticides, that market bounces them to us. So it is us again who consume them. So at the end of the day, this business of thinking that we are producing big for external market shouldn't be a point, because those guys, they will send us a chemical, but they will never take food that is produced with that chemical. If you can use an example of coffee, you've seen the new regulation on coffee. Is it a growth, whatever? If you've used the chemical, this you cannot take it to the EU.
The EU.
But where is the chemical coming from?
From the EU.
Exactly. So if they cannot take our food that we have produced with the chemical they gave us, who are we even to discuss that we need those chemicals anyway? And I want to conclude this part by telling you that 65% of the pesticides which are highly hazardous, moreover, in this country can never be used in the EU.
And
They're
yet
all
they
sent to
want our
Africa.
products which are not sprayed,
Exactly.
which are
The question would be,
organic.
who do we blame? We
Our
tried to blame
governments.
the EU, and the EU told us that whenever we are sending you a chemical, your government has accepted.
Yes.
Because there is a principle called PIC, prior informed consent. Before that country sends you the pesticide, they first write to you 1 year before that, hey, Ugandans want to send you this chemical, are you willing to take it on? So it is up to our government to say, yes, for us, you bring. And this is a chemical that was banned there, and it is here. So who is responsible? We need to make sure that the Ministry of Agriculture, let me say government, is really concerned about this issue, because they know. The problem is, why do they even allow these things to come when they cannot be used there? And that's what I'm calling double standards. Why should something work for Uganda when it cannot work for Europe?
Yeah.
Are they having different blood? Certainly not. So we need to think about it that way.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Bernard. Back to you, Mr. Wali.
Yes.
What are some of these health risks that are associated to, okay, maybe we would have answered that, but what do farmers do when they feel unwell? Is there any specific
Treatment.
Yes, treatment that they're given in hospitals that is, let me say, the hospital says this is medication for people who have been infected, who have been affected by the pesticides that they're using in their gardens?
Oh, thank you very much. And my colleague has really done something, but figures are shocking.
Yeah, sure.
I can't tell you what is happening, especially where they grow vegetables. Here, vegetables which are most grown are tomatoes, nakati, pepper, green pepper. That's where the onions. Onions can even survive without chemicals.
Actually, yes.
But the tomato, the peppers, the cabbage, the nakatis, those leafy vegetables, and the carrot, they have a great chemical load.
True.
You go to Nakasero, I went with my wife to buy green nakati for cooking. She wanted to go in for the very big one with big leaves, but it had been coated. I told him, don't buy. He said, why? It had been coated with mancozeb and other agrochemicals. Then I asked a lady, who has small nakati? Then a lady had small. You come and buy mine, tekuli dagala. She bought that one. Can you imagine how much nakati, which has that drug load, which is consumed, tons and tons. So there are very few cases which are reported.
Exactly.
One time I was approached by somebody who had taken some chemicals. So what I did is, can you give me the packet
That you used?
that where the chemicals came from? Hey, I have it. Then I told him how to read that packet. There's always an area where they say an antidote. What do you do? So what I did is to send him to the dispensary in Intenjero. But that is one case, or two, or three.
Most times they say give them milk for those who have
Yeah,
consumed
they
it.
use a lot
orally.
of concoctions which are tradition. But some chemicals can persist. There are those which are chronical, and there are those which are acute. For acute, like a blindness, you can wash immediately your eyes and then stay there. There are ways, but then those which are chronical, which are carcinogenic, as you said, they enter your body slowly. They work on your parts, the liver, the pancreas, the what,
The skin.
slowly. Then the
The
usual
fire.
dose comes until you collapse. And that is the road. I have a story whereby a farmer started growing tomatoes when he was young without a bicycle. When he grew, he bought a bicycle. He again grew tomatoes, he bought what? A motorcycle. By then, he also grew more tomatoes with those chemicals. He bought a what?
A car.
this a small lorry.
Tukutuku.
This one, etwala
Katipa.
omusenyu. Katipa. That's the year he died.
Wow.
Wow.
So, when I was there on the burial day, abalogo bassa omwana oyo afunye sente nnyingi nnyo kati batandise omologa. But the story came from very 20 years away.
True.
The drug was accumulating in the body
True.
until he died, but he also very rich. So many people have died. They don't know the reality, they don't know what the gentleman said, what is in that chemical, how dangerous it is. You see, you can say the balimisa can help, but how many are they?
One per sub-county.
Yes. the people who would have known these cases are the LC ones. Because on each LC one there's an environmental office. They should have known who spray, they spray what on what crops, and then the dangers. So very few cases are reported to and even the medical people. Some of the medical people, especially some doctors, can help, but those who are not doctors, those who are with diplomas, certificates, there are many health organizations now. Can they deal with the drug problems? The chemicals, you can help us. I heard you say the consumer. Can they help somebody who runs to that hospital or clinic and then is given the right chemical to dissolve that chemical in the body?
I think the truth is that most of our farmers do not even know that they are sick.
Yes,
That is another truth.
it takes time.
So for her to realize, of course she will have a headache and she assumes she overworked.
She takes a Panadol.
She takes a Panadol. So she feels like the eyes are itching and then she just pours water. Then she assumes that is a remedy. Others just feel some skin rash and they just, and then they feel that is all. But actually, people don't know that it was the effect of the chemical that is actually causing the disease. And when they come to the clinics in your communities down there, the health workers in those communities do not have thorough expertise to diagnose the effect of a pesticide. So many people are having these problems, but they are not diagnosed. They are not even reported.
So by the time the person gets to know that it's actually dangerous or it's severe, is when it's already too late.
They are in Mulago.
Yeah.
So the time they realize that actually, but my kidney, my liver, they're already in Mulago. But that problem, they have been with it for the last 10 years, and they have been taking Panadol, just like that in the village down there.
And can you imagine these people spraying tomatoes? They eat tomatoes when they are in the garden.
Exactly.
And they was telling this guy, you are eating, where's the lunch? They were eating tomatoes in the garden.
Yeah.
And they claim they are making money, and in the end, death.
Sure.
People have died, and they are speculating on Barogo.
Yeah.
So which is not the case. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Wali, do you ever feel any pressure from the traders of these pesticides or agro-input dealers for you to consume or use these pesticides in your gardens?
They do a lot of promotion. They have incentives. Yeah,
sure.
And we don't know even some of this. We don't know where these diseases come from. They are ever changing. I don't know. We are skeptical about the occurrence of some of these diseases. Like recently, our coffee has very many blisters. We are scared, but we are telling farmers, please improve on the nutrition of that plant. Don't spray, because the chemicals which is used to spray coffee, I think it is deadly. I don't know. Is more has more expertise than me, but for me, what I tell them, please improve on the nutrition of that plant. Put a lot of organic matter so that it can fight its own by itself and overcome that problem. And some have done it. They do the cultural methods. They prune, remove the weeds, make sure it gets the water. It is irrigated in time. And but there's pressure because every year, every month, there are new chemicals on the market. and they change.
Sure.
The same chemical can be branded several times.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, and they put incentives. They are now putting even seeds there so that if you buy this chemical,
They give
you
you a
get a seed. Yeah, so
see.
that's the pressure, the pressure to the small-scale farmers. And also the pressure comes from the seed, like these tomato seeds. If you get a very highly yielding tomato seed, it calls you to buy Mankozeb.
It is automatic.
It is automatic. They are linked. You can see somebody in a farm supply shop having got all those packets of seed and the packets, very, very many packets of Mankozeb.
Yeah,
On the same vehicle, you say, why have you bought the chemical before even the seed is you have put a what? A bed, seed bed.
Sure.
They told me this one, I have to buy this. So they have a list of chemicals which has to be bought
Yeah, sure.
before even the seed bed is bent. So it's a very, very big challenge, especially for tomatoes
Big problem.
and those leaf vegetables.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Wali. Back to you, Mr. Wambale.
Yes.
We talked about the double standards of our governments accepting some of these chemicals, yet they are banned in the EU. What measures should be taken to protect the Ugandan consumer and the producer?
You see, that goes without saying. As long as something is highly hazardous, it must not cross anywhere. So the first step would be that government must ban the importation of highly hazardous pesticides. Given the criteria I told you up there, we cannot risk our people. We cannot risk. So the first step that government must do, as early as yesterday, is to ban the importation of highly hazardous pesticides. Because when a farmer doesn't have access to them, they will not buy them. But nowadays you see that these chemicals are brought to the doorstep of the farmer. A lot of pressure out there. It is brought there. But if it wasn't allowed in the country, we wouldn't access. You get it? That is the first thing. Two, government must have stringent restrictions on pesticides. Very stringent. Actually, we don't even need to joke about it. It is just a must. Government it's really the role of government. No one else can do it apart from the government. Civil societies, religious leaders, cultural leaders, universities, we must create a lot of awareness. We must empower the community. We must empower the farmers. We must empower the consumer to make sure that we have one campaign, one voice on highly hazardous pesticides. If we don't do that, remember all of us are consumers. Whether you're a commissioner, whether you're a minister, whether you're a president, all of us are consumers. It comes back to us. So we have a lot of work to do to make sure that these pesticides, which are highly hazardous, don't even cross our borders. They must not even cross to our borders. That is the first thing that we need to quickly think about. And then to researchers, we need to do specific research that fits our needs.
Actually.
Research that is ours. This business of borrowing research from the US, research from UK, research from the EU, it doesn't apply. Our soils are fertile. Our climate is very nice, our weather is very good, and our challenges are different. You know, Mr. Wali was talking about different chemicals coming. The issue is that every time you over-apply these things, the pests get used, and so they get resistance. So you need to keep on changing this and the other. So this is where we are coming from, and this is where the problem is. So we need to be very, very strict with the usage of chemicals. Actually, we have an act of parliament. The Agricultural Chemicals Control Act, 2006, it spells out that. We even have a board, by the way, on chemicals, which is supposed to regulate, supposed to monitor, supposed to evaluate, is supposed to do the regulation of the pesticides that are coming in the country.
But they are overwhelmed by the number of people using.
Even the industry
That's
itself.
the problem.
So we have a lot of challenges there. But maybe, as I conclude this, I wanted also to shed light on how our people actually get exposed. So there are many different ways how our people get exposed to these chemicals. For instance, most of our farmers will go to the garden. He's carrying a pump with a chemical, but he's naked.
Yeah.
He's not wearing a shirt. But the guy is busy carrying a pump and is sweating and is spraying. So imagine spraying a mango at that angle. The chemical hits the mango, it comes back to the eyes, to the nose, to the mouth, the ears, to the skin, etc.
And in the midday.
Yeah, and it's midday or even it's a windy day. I mean, that is one way people get exposed. The other is that women go to the garden to spray and she's carrying a baby. Now just imagine that baby of 3 months, she's at the back of the mother and the mother is busy spraying, the kid is inhaling.
Let me tell you how even women get contaminated. When the man grows, I've seen in my area,
Yeah.
big plots of tomatoes.
Yeah.
Men don't pick
Yeah,
tomatoes.
It's the women who pick.
It is the women
Who harvest.
who harvest because they want chintu chidogo.
Exactly.
Eh?
Exactly.
It is, and you can really see what is happening, and you cry, but you cannot stop
You can't
crying.
do much.
You can't
and
do
of course
much.
you know that in the same field you have children playing in the garden.
Yes.
And so the mother is picking these things, the father is in the garden, and then at the end of the day they end up having a mess. The other issue is that when people have used the pesticides, where do they put the bottles? So some of those bottles are discarded in landfills, and when they're in the landfills, what is happening? Women are collecting them, they are washing them, they are packing juice, they are packing salt, they are packing sugar, they are packing majani in those same bottles. Other people sleep with those bottles in their bedrooms. A chemical has been opened and then the tin is inside the bedroom. So you are snoring in the night, you are taking in some bit of samples. Some of them are getting those bottles and they are keeping them in the wardrobes, they are keeping them in the cupboards, they are, all of those things. There are some bigger bottles, they cut them if there's a jerrycan and they start using it for washing clothes. So all of those are different ways in which people actually get exposed to the pesticide issues. So I think we need a lot of advocacy against the highly hazardous pesticides, and we want of course to thank you guys for ensuring we have this show, and maybe many people should be able to watch it and maybe they should be able to appreciate these things, and I think we can learn slowly from one community to the other.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Bernard. Lastly, as we conclude, Mr. Wali, as a small-scale farmer, how do you want to be supported as small-scale farmers to stop the use of these hazardous pesticides?
First is the advocacy. We should have a lot of trainings, awareness creation at grassroots. And then we should have, as he said, an action-oriented research, not the research which is conventional. The research which here is too much conventional that they do it to get degrees. They don't, when you go to some countries like China, they award honorable degrees, whereby the farmers have made their own research. Farmers have a lot of knowledge,
True.
but it's not captured. A lot of innovations, we need to capture all of them, then improve them somewhere, and then disseminate. The radio, in the radio sector, we have two systems of radio. One on the broadcasted radio, like NBS, like UBC, but also there are our small radios. I used to conduct a program on vanilla. On vanilla, I was conducting a program on some radios. What I used to do is to pay some amount of money. I could register the Vizindaro in maybe in Masaka or in Ruwero, get their numbers, and I could pay them when I'm on a certain radio, maybe Radio Simba. Please, on this time at 8, I will be on Radio Simba. Put me on. So those work very much, a lot, so that because of so many radios, people are using so many radio stations. But when you get a radio station and you pay those Bizindaro, I don't know, they are community radios, all your message will go. And also, we should engage local leaders a lot. There's an organization I've been with as a small-scale farmer. We have been engaging local leaders, yes, and on making the biofarmers and the dangers of pesticides. It is a local NGO, and they are doing it very well. So we should multiply, like ASAP should get a whole branch on pesticides for small-scale farmers. Yeah, because each area has different problems. So we could analyze, make an inventory of all those, what is happening, and then we could get the situation, and then we problem solve. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wali and Mr. Wambale, for joining us on this episode of The Spotlight. I think we have come to the end of our show today, and what I would like to conclude with is, as ESAF Uganda, we are going to continue to create awareness on the use of these hazardous pesticides on the market. We're also highly engaging journalists to be able to write and report about these hazardous pesticides to the public. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like our YouTube channel. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching The Spotlight. Stay connected with ESAF Uganda as we empower small-scale farmers. Visit our website and follow us on social media for more updates.